Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lights Too Bright podcast. Today I have a friend who has really stepped away from optometry. Um, when I met him, he was in professional services, but now he's had enough. He's done. He's gone. So today we're going to hear the journey of Mr. Eddie Pigott. Hi, Eddie.
Hey, you paused quite a long time as you said friend there.
Weighing up options. I don't know. Because up until now, everyone's been friends and colleagues.
Yeah,
But you've jumped out of the colleague space,
yeah, a little bit.
right? So it's not even like I can go, oh, Eddie, I need a favor, like in the good
Yeah,
old days. Yeah, I got so now you're just in the friend zone
yeah,
in a nice way. And you've been kind enough to share your time, and I think I know you well enough that I thought you'd be honest about your journey, where you are now, and how you got there, why you're there, kind of thing. So if you weren't a friend, you probably could have said, go do one. Um, I ain't talking to you optoms anymore. Had enough of you. That's why I left.
never, never.
So Eddie, what do you do, mate? What's your role now? What is your current role?
So I run a business called HX Marketing, where I offer a range of services, but basically help small to medium-sized businesses, SMEs, with their marketing, really. So
Okay.
offer a wide range of marketing support, help them build marketing strategy, and then work through to help them implement through social media, email marketing, all the way through to event organization, and that sort of thing. And then there's a slightly separate part of the business where I work as a more traditional marketing agency with some um, kind of big, uh, big corporations and such like marketing campaigns.
Okay. So because this podcast's not really about marketing, I'm not going to probably push you too much on that, mate. But what I'm really really curious about, because in pretty much all of in the 3 episodes I've done so far, something that has come up has always been networking, in terms of within our profession, how networking helps. When you kind of really stepped away, were you able to use any networking that you had made within the industry? Does that make sense? Was there anyone within the industry who go, well, actually, Eddie, I can help you with that?
It's a good question, and I think I when I just decided to start my own business, I had not long since moved to Manchester. Born and brought up around London, so I was born and brought up in Watford. So most of my
Go
kind of
Hornets.
friends, yeah, I know, yeah. Which now I'm like the solitary Watford fan in Manchester. I decided to move to Manchester. My wife's from Manchester originally, and when I moved to Manchester, it was all kind of still under lockdown and such like. And when I started my business, it was only after a short amount of time I thought, oh, actually, I need to build a whole new network of people here because I don't really know that many people in Manchester. I'd love to say, kind of, as you get,
I remember you posting about that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember you posting on LinkedIn about that, actually.
yeah. So I genuinely, I don't know if other people find this, but as I suppose you get into, I'm in my 30s, and in my 30s, like making friends is a lot harder than it used to be. You've kind of got your friend group and you don't actively go out there and look for friends all the time. So it was a bit of a learning experience for me. But then from a business perspective, I had to do the same thing. I suppose to loop back to your question, there were a few people in the industry I reached out to, people that I respect, whose opinion I respect. There weren't many who I suppose had parallels, shared experiences. So it was more generally to bounce ideas off as opposed to kind of learn from their shared experience.
Yeah. Okay. I was just always curious because, like, it's very different. Now, I've spoken to people. I'm going to speak to people who are still kind of within the global eye care profession. But dude, you went later.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can swear. It's my podcast. Later, bitches. I'm out. I'm absolutely done with this. So you grew up in Watford. Just out of curiosity, where do you go to school?
At Rickmansworth?
Okay, yeah, I was at boys' grammar, I've got a decade plus on you, mate.
Yeah.
So I was long gone before you went to Ricky. Um, did you want to? Did you always want to be an optometrist?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say I always wanted to be an optometrist. I think um, when I got past kind of like GCSE sort of age, I realised that I had an aptitude for science. I really like science, and I really like talking to people. Originally, I think like a lot of us, I was looking down the medicine route. Realised that ultimately I didn't have the academic background on that front. So I looked around a few things, and ultimately I like the idea of talking to people every day. I mean, that's strange, but I like the idea of like seeing different patients every day, but also utilising kind of the scientific background side of things. I went and did a little bit of work experience in my local optician at the time,
Okay,
um, and they let me just kind of shadow people for a couple of days, if I remember rightly, just ask some of the optoms and some of the um, DOs and the rest of the practice staff some questions. And as a I was probably 15, as a 15-year-old, it seemed like
yeah,
a pretty good idea.
yeah. I mean, I was similar. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Someone said to me, "It's only 3 years at uni, and it's not bad living." And I was like, "Okay, why
Do you know?
not?"
Do you know when you think back about things that sway you? Uh, at the time, Cardiff was just having its new optometry building built. So I remember going to visit Cardiff or seeing the prospectus and looking and thinking, oh, that looks pretty good. And if I remember right, it's like they spent like 65 million. Don't quote me on that, but that number sticks in my head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, but the year before that, I'd been to Cardiff because Wembley was shut at the time, and Watford had got to the playoff final against Leeds.
yeah,
Went with my dad, and I mean Watford have, I mean, literally never won anything. They've never won a cup of significance. So winning the playoff final is pretty much
yeah,
the pinnacle of it for us. And I had such a good day in Cardiff with my dad, and then when it came to choose like subjects and seeing universities, there was definitely a big sway from basically
yeah,
having
yeah.
like the sporting day of my life in Cardiff, and then basically choosing it as a university to do a subject that I didn't know huge amounts about. So I won't want to say it swayed me entirely, but there was definitely some substance in there.
But there's that subconscious stuff, right? Happy memories, happy places, and what you're going to be. You're there for 3 years. Um, I I didn't realize how many people I know went to Cardiff, right?
Yeah.
And until speaking to people now, um, it was really funny. I was chatting to Karen Walsh, who you might know, and she was saying there's a fine level of drizzle in Cardiff that you can never underestimate. It doesn't really get cold, but you are always wet,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was
So
quite funny.
non-stop.
Yeah. So so you did Cardiff,
Yeah.
um, and then anyone else in the family optometrist or the no, and so no one was inspiring you to go into the eye care profession.
No, I remember on, I think it was on the Bradford prospectus, they had like, I think they had like a 99% employment rate, maybe 100% employment rate. And I remember my dad being like, yeah, that's the profession for you. Like, very safe choice. But yeah, so yeah, no one had gone into it previously.
Okay. And then pre-reg with
So it was in a practice in South Wales called Darlington Opticians.
okay,
Um, Originally, I was going to stay around the Watford area, um, but met my now wife doing optometry, and basically a group of my friends were staying, and my wife was staying in Cardiff. And at the last minute, I was like, "Oh wow, I really don't want to go home now." So changed my changed my kind of thought process around it, and did some
okay,
like really last minute pre-reg interviews. Um, and ironically, my wife was doing the same thing, but she was like a step ahead. So she had been for the pre-reg interview at the place that I ended up at Darlington's, where I ended up working. And ultimately, can't remember if they offered it to her or not, but she did take it. She was in Chalmers Opticians in uh,
Okay.
Cardiff City Centre or around Cardiff City Centre, and then I worked in a it was a small collection of practices around kind of the South Wales area.
Okay. So, I mean, I know this is not about Mrs. Pigott. And actually, we've never met, but just so the audience knows that Eddie's wife, it was also an optometrist, and also kind of made some side steps without going into too much detail. Actually, you know what, Eddie, maybe I should get her on,
Yeah, she's
at some point
interested
as
than me.
well, just to have a conversation. It would be quite interesting because I've never interviewed someone I don't know,
Mm.
like he's someone who's very much a stranger. So maybe we'll have a chat about that after. Okay, so then you're in South Wales. How long were you were you always kind of in that high street type of environment? Um, how long did you do that for Darlington?
We So I completed my pre-reg, and I was working in. It was kind of spread across the valleys in Wales. So
Okay,
I worked across 4 different practices. I think it was 4, and I found it really interesting because it was a different scenario pretty much most days. There wasn't too much travel involved. There was a practice in Western-super-Mare that I used to go and work in as well, but really enjoyed it. So it was kind of fun, and I think like a lot of us in the early throes of going from pre-reg to kind of into employed work, you're not having to do all the study, you're earning a lot more money, and just really enjoying probably the first couple of years of kind of employed life without having to worry too much about the studies behind it. Um, so that was, I think, all in all, I stayed in Cardiff after pre-reg for about 18 months, 2 years. But then my wife, who's much more adventurous than I am, basically said that she wanted to go travelling. I said I didn't want to go travelling, and then she said she was going to go anyway. So then I decided I'm going to go travelling. So we saved up. Was then experienced a bit of locum work as well because it was working kind of weekends and whatnot to save up. And then we went travelling around Southeast Asia. So left our jobs, went travelling around Southeast Asia. I think it was for about 6 months,
okay,
and then actually went to Ghana and was in Ghana for between 2 and 3 months working with Unite for Sight. So eye testing out um, before then coming home. I say coming home, basically going back to Watford because we had nowhere to live.
fine. So okay, I mean that's interesting. That's more than a lot of people who have done. I think definitely more than I did because I came home pretty quick. Actually, I never left home. Sort of. So I went to uni in London, but I lived out.
Okay.
And it was really funny. My dad was like, no, why don't you just stay at home? I'm like, I don't want to stay at home. He's like, why don't you just stay at home? I'm like, I don't want to stay at home. He goes, just stay at home. I went, look, if I don't get halls, I'm going to Cardiff next year. I'm going to defer this whole year. I'm going to go to Cardiff next year. He went, yeah, go stay out. You'll be right. Yeah. But I was always close enough to home
Yeah.
to drop in and far enough away that I had my own independence. And then when I finally got a pre-reg, some of us weren't lucky enough to have multiple offers, mate. When I finally got a pre-reg, it was in central London, so I ended up just commuting. So I mean, so you've done the stuff. So this is a question I've really want to ask. I've asked a couple of people. It's never really come up. This one, was there a canon event that made you think I don't really want to see patients on a day-to-day basis? What was the kind of trigger for you to step into your next role where I met you? And I'll let you kind of explain that.
I don't. I don't necessarily know if I had a. I'd never heard of a canon moment, but yeah, like a
You
canon
got to watch
moment.
more comics, mate. You got to watch more Spider-Man, a bit of Into the Universe, and
You're
you'll
making
figure out what a
this
canon event is.
podcast. So do you know what? My wife, when we moved, because we ended up moving to Surrey, so we lived in Woking, got a flat there. I was working in again a small group of independents, And my wife was working. She ended up working for a domiciliary company, and she came home one day, seemingly had a bad day, and she had a day off the next day. She's like, "Do you know what?" She's like, "Tomorrow, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with my career." And I did the kind of the whole like paid the lip service of yeah, like you've had a bad day. Came home the next day, and she'd applied for a to do a master's in data analytics. It's like we never even talked about data analytics. I never even probably even thought it was a subject at that point. She'd done her research. She decided things a lot quicker than I do. She'd done her research and just decided she was gonna go a separate route. She really didn't enjoy it, but she didn't enjoy it from the start, really. So then, I think because she was an optometrist, there was quite a lot of interest when she applied from the down the master's route. I think their question was, why is an optometrist applying to do data analytics? So she got accepted. She then it was the University of Surrey. Basically, she didn't need to move anywhere. Um, I carried on going to work, and then all of a sudden she was doing her master's degree full time and did phenomenally well. She kind of retaught herself maths at A level, I think, and then just yeah, did phenomenally well to kind of catch up because there's a lot of people from a lot more relevant backgrounds in the course. And then went and did a grad scheme at Cisco Systems. And I remember sitting down one day thinking, like, wow, like how different within 18 months, how different a path is she taking versus me? And I'd started to probably enjoy it less and started to kind of look at what scenarios I could think around. But for me, I wanted to own a practice, and I was like, okay, well, if I own a practice, I can then really kind of think around how I do things differently at that point. Um, and then the practice I was working at, or the set of practices I was working at, actually got sold. I don't know the full details around it, but what I was hoping to work towards then kind of didn't become an option anymore. Felt like I'd invested quite a bit of time in that practice or in those practices, and I felt like I'd have to be kind of starting from scratch again. So probably at that point, I started to look at other opportunities and see what was out there, just because I was rethinking what I was doing with my career. And I wouldn't say I wouldn't say there was an absolute trigger, but I think I started finding I was like counting down every patient towards the end of the day, counting down to
Okay.
lunchtime.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was definitely enjoying it less.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the scenario, maybe that was the practice that I was in, or kind of the situation I was in at the time. But at the time, I just started looking for something a little bit different.
And is that when you ended up professional services?
Yeah, yeah. Um, noticed it was actually I talked to a recruiter ages before, um, and like a couple of years before, and it was when I think I was looking for potentially other roles, and then got a phone call. I was actually on holiday, so I got a phone call on holiday, and he said there was his role in professional services, and it sounded a bit different. It was a lot more kind of doing the training side of things, and I liked the idea of that. Um, but it was a contract role. I can't remember how long the contract was for,
Okay.
but I remember
Yeah.
thinking it was kind of a big deal. Like move it, like if I go for it, if I get the opportunity, moving on to a fixed term contract. What do I do at the end of that? Um, but thought I would take what felt like a massive jump at the time, um, and went for an interview and absolutely loved the idea of it once I came away from the interview. And probably our original mutual connection, which is Jonathan Bench, um, was the person doing the interview. And as soon as I met him, I
Yeah.
thought, oh man, like I would love to work for this
That's it.
guy.
Done. I don't. I don't think anyone can meet. And Jonathan's. He's been kind enough. He's going to talk to us as well. But
Was he?
he's talking to me like next week, I think. But I don't think there's anyone who meets JB and doesn't think this guy. And it's just there's just something about JB that it just is very kind of nice. Kind of
Yeah.
you can be very relaxed around him, and he just come, he just, I know him now, so I know it's not he comes across as genuine. He is genuine, but
Yeah.
you can really kind of, you feel that when you're talking to him because
And you know what? That's probably what I needed to feel confidence in somebody to make a step away from the fairly direct path that I imagine my career would go in. So yeah, that's kind of how I then got into professional services.
So how long did you do with Alcon then? Were you
I think all in all with Alcon was 8 years. I
okay?
think.
So it was a good a good stint. It
Yeah,
wasn't just a couple of months. So that
yeah,
fixed term contract kind of progressed a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. Fortunately, the fixed term nature of that original contract was fairly quickly. I was fortunate enough to get a role in Alcon's office, um, which I absolutely loved. I loved working there. I really did. And just the head office atmosphere, the fact that there's so many people all the time. I can't tell you how long it took me to get my head around not having a fixed diary every day.
Okay.
Like, genuinely felt guilty at times for no apparent reason, but I was so used to
Yeah.
having my
Yeah.
diary decided for
Bang,
me.
bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
so strange to start with. Um, but then, yeah, once I kind of started working in their head office, I couldn't really imagine doing much else.
For those who may be listening, watching, who don't, I use the term professional services quite broadly. Do you just want to like ever so quickly sort of say what kind of stuff you were involved in within that?
Yeah, so in when I first moved to Alcon, effectively it was helping to create and deliver professional education and training, whether that be CPD, whether that generally be training around products. My original role was more remote, so I'd kind of travel around a particular region in the UK, did a lot of traveling. And then when I was in head office, it was more kind of I suppose, the strategic side of things, more kind of writing the training, still delivering a lot. So at the time, they had there was the um, Alcon Academy, so I was able to pretty much at one point it felt like most weeks have a lot of practitioners come to us when we deliver training and education. Um, and yeah, I loved it. It was really nice to be in the industry and feel like I was still utilising the skills that I'd learned, but then also feel like I was learning a whole new skill set. Public speaking, I'd never done, never considered, and all of a sudden was presenting to, well, I say all of a sudden after a few years of training and whatnot, presenting to groups of people, and it felt kind of surreal at the time, to be honest. I remember one of the first one of the first presentations I did. I drove into the car park in the morning. I was nervous, like really nervous. So it probably added to it. Drove into the car park in the morning, and I literally drove into the car park. So there's a small multi-story car park in the Alcon head office, and I was reversing in, and I now use the excuse, which was true. There's like a weird structure in the kind of the way the car park's built that effectively the parking sensors kind of go in between two concrete blocks. So my parking
Okay.
sensors not beeping to tell me I was near the wall. I wasn't paying attention. I smashed my back windscreen. Literally. Like, and it wasn't even like I hit something at speed. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I cracked it through pressure. So it's
Yeah.
like it was touching the
Yeah. Just
concrete of the car park. And it like exploded. It like really loud bang. Um, and this slightly surreal moment of have I just done what I think I've done? Um, and then it kind of actually helping me in presenting that day because I felt less nervous about actually presenting and slightly more not nervous but slightly just stupid around the fact that at my place of work I just reversed.
blew up, blew up a real windscreen.
Yeah. Um,
Was
so
that
yeah,
company car?
yeah, yeah,
Right then, so it's fine.
yeah.
It's okay.
It
Not
was
not
it was
quite
a
so
joke.
bad.
It was a running joke in head office for a while. which I fully understand. Uh, but yeah, it was fun times though.
Maybe, well, you know what? That's a learning experience. They should have put a sign up,
Yeah,
you know, be careful.
yeah,
This
I,
this wall is closer to you than you think it is.
yeah,
Fantastic. I mean, the thing I think sometimes, particularly new professionals, I think they get a bit concerned about stepping out of their comfort zone. And you've obviously done it. I mean, you've done it twice, right? You've done one sort of, well, at least you're in the industry, you know what an eye is, kind of thing. And then you've done this second one, which is like huge. It's absolute step away from the industry totally. But I think people want to know, and it came up slightly with Purvi when I was talking to her, is that when you took the Alcon role, I'm assuming there was training, right? And they kind of helped you into it. It wasn't just a case of we expect you to be able to create infographics and educational tools off the bat.
yeah. So I think when I joined Alcon, one, I joined a really experienced team, so the people around me helped me absolutely tons. Um, but I was able to slowly, I suppose, expose myself to more learning opportunities and experiences. So I was working in head office in the professional education team with the marketing team, with the key account team, with other teams. So I was starting to see things. So, for instance, marketing materials, I was part of the approval team. So I was helping to approve from kind of a more I suppose, an optometry background to make sure that claims were correct, to make sure they're getting the context correct, that sort of thing. And I really liked that side of things. And a role came up in the marketing team, a secondment role. And I'd probably been working in professional education or professional services for, I think, 3 years maybe at the time. And I'd worked with the marketing team. I knew the marketing team, and I thought I'd just try something different because I saw what they were doing, and I thought to myself, there's no reason without a bit of graft and some hard work in the background, I can't do the same thing. So I talked to Jonathan, who was still my boss at the time, and he agreed. And the thought was that I would kind of second into the marketing team, kind of broaden my horizons, broaden my skill set, and then come back into the professional education team and kind of add with an additional skill set. But within quite a short amount of time, I realised how much I was enjoying the marketing side of things, and an opportunity came up then to stay in the marketing team. And at the time, I was like, well, why not? There's no hard and fast rule saying that I can't move back into the professional education team. I think deep down, I was finding marketing a bit more exciting because it's new. I was learning different things, so I think deep down I knew that I was kind of trying to stay on that path. So yeah, it kind of I suppose I had a little bit of I was able to gain like little bits of exposure. So yeah, I was stepping out of my comfort zone, but my comfort zone maybe just got a little bit bigger with every step.
Do
Um,
you do you feel? And I think a lot of optometrists are like this. Um, do you feel that you're the kind of person who just has to keep learning and have to sort of keep challenging yourself a little bit? Otherwise, so for me, I hate studying. I hate it. But when I'm not studying, I get bored, and I'm like, I need to I need to keep progressing.
yeah, I'd say so. You know what? I wouldn't. I think if you asked me maybe 5, 10 years ago, I wouldn't probably have said that's the case. But I think over time I've realised it's kind of an area I enjoy. Um, I was really passionate, and I am really passionate about. I think optometrists have a wonderful skill set, and I was quite determined to prove that that skill set can be used elsewhere. Um, because I think we're really capable people. We do a great job in the industry we work in, but there's no reason. If you look at a lot of other industries, there's so many different career paths in an industry. Whereas I certainly felt at the time, it didn't feel like there was tons of progression available once you qualified. And things have changed now, right? There's I mean, I never did any of my independent prescribing. I was kind of out of practice by that point. But there's a lot more now to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
and advance your career. Maybe if timing was different, I'd be talking to you in a totally different capacity, because maybe that would have been enough to kind of keep me not wondering what was out there.
yeah.
But
I've
so
yeah, go on. Sorry, I cut you off, mate. Go on.
I was going to say, certainly, at the time, I felt a little bit like if I was going to change, I needed to make a big jump.
Okay, I just remembered something. And I told you we wouldn't go over 30 minutes. We're just over 30. So I'm gonna just mention this. We're gonna talk about that for a sec, and then I'll let you go and do your proper job. Rather than sit here shooting the breeze with me. But when didn't you spend time as a college counselor?
Yeah, I was on the college council. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So was that one of these things where you were just trying to broaden your horizon? Part of your trying to make optometry be the best optometry it can be, and was that your reasoning behind that, or
yeah,
someone
I'd
said
love
you better do it?
to say I was.
JB put you on the step and went right.
I would absolutely love to say I was trying to progress the profession as much as possible. I think there's probably more slightly selfish reasons to go into it. That I think at the time of fresh education, I thought I felt I'd learned a lot of new skills and actually wanted to advance that. It wasn't something I considered beforehand. I loved my time on council. Um, I really did. But actually, timing wise, it kind of worked slightly strangely, because I then, not huge amounts of time after, a year or so after going on to the college council, I moved into marketing. And I didn't think it was right to, although
Okay.
still had my qualifications, still worked with the professional
Yeah.
services team. It didn't feel right to stay on there, because I think it's important that actually there is proper day to day representation on not just the college council but other councils, because you need to be talking about things that are affecting the genuine day-to-day lives of optometrists. And I quickly felt that actually I was probably in the wrong position to do that.
Okay. I mean, it's really interesting. It's just I remembered it. It just popped into my head because we were talking about myopia. Remember how not so happy I was about the
Yeah,
college's comment.
yeah, I do now.
That'd be like 2018, I think it was 2018, 2019. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, they've changed their outlook on that. So that's good, right, mate? Like I said, I promise one question that I'd like you to maybe answer if you can. Um, for those who are watching, those who are listening, if there's kind of one piece of advice you could give them with regards to, either whether it's professional development, career choices, or even in life, what would you say to those who have spent some time with us today?
Can you just ask me the question again, please?
Yeah. So someone's talking to you, right? And you've just got to give them one piece of advice. Now, because I've just made it so broad, I'll cut it down a bit. I go, professionally, what one piece of advice would you give someone within the eye care space, that you think is really beneficial, something that they might not think about and not appreciate?
So the one thing that comes to mind for me is, I think maybe, I mean, we talked about my wife earlier. She made a decision and she just went and got it. Like, people would have said to her, don't apply to a data analytics masters. Of course, you're not. Like, why would you, like? Don't even bother applying. Like, if you want to change something, whether that's in the industry, outside of the industry, progressing within the industry, you're really the only one that can do it. I'm a big believer in, if you want something to change, you've got to go and change it yourself. It's not gonna change for you. It's not gonna fall into your lap. That's probably what I learned from her. And in starting a marketing business, like, yeah, I mean, I, I had to be the one to go and make that decision and then go and try and build a business off the back of it. Um, so I would say that's probably the piece of advice that's worked best for me, because I think
Yeah,
maybe earlier on in my career I was probably more like an ostrich. I'd bury my head in the sand about things, whereas
I
now
think a
I'm,
lot of people do it.
yeah,
I think a lot of optometrists do it. They get caught in the, well, I've studied to be an optometrist. I should be an optometrist, whether you enjoy it or not. And so, and I guess now I'm not sure with you whether you had, if you were lumbered with student debt. I was fortunate enough not to have much. Just my student loans. I didn't have to pay for uni, and I think there's this kind of expectation, right? Well, well, I've got this and I've got that, and it's like if you're not enjoying it, if you're young enough, and make the change, because you're right. Only you can factor your own change. No one else can do it for you, unless you win the lottery, and even then, you have to buy the ticket,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I think that's really a fantastic place to end. And we probably could have spoken for another half hour or so, Eddie, but I don't think anyone wants to listen to me any longer. And I will reach out to you and see if Mrs. Pigott would like to have a chat, because I'm really curious now. And it might be nice to meet her. So I'm going to thank you again. And the next time I'm up Manchester ways, I will give you a shout.
yeah, definitely.
If you're ever passing through Northampton, dude, on your way to Watford,
Yeah,
you know,
I need to
then
find a reason.
then
I don't find myself going south too often. I need to find a reason to.
come and visit. That's fine. Come see the
Yeah,
practice. We'll do something.
nice.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.